it was just so extreme. And so I wouldn't get relief sometimes until the 16-hour mark. And do not let the lie come in your mind that the Lord is not with you because the storm has not been removed. That is incorrect. We live in a broken world. Broken things happen. Hey Squeaky Tree family, thanks for joining us today. We are a homestead channel that shares our life with you in hopes that you would learn along the way. So today I'm going to be sharing with you a very personal story, a story of what led me to natural medicine and to grow my own medicinal garden. You know, as I look around at winter and dead trees and the brush and the brokenness around here, it reminds me of the year that I thought that I might not make it. At least Nathaniel thought that I might not make it because he was looking in at how bad things were. It starts when I was 15 years old and I got sick, like it was like a bacterial infection. Normal sick. It's the first time that I had ever gotten something like that, and it started with salt. It's gonna be really yucky, y'all, but it started with sulfur burps, and as soon as I felt that, it went into a busyness into my stomach. That's the only thing that the only way that I can explain it, and it's not like, I mean, it was nausea, but it was so extreme to nausea, and whatever I didn't throw up, I threw down, if you know what I mean. And I was just so sick, and so I was like that for on and off again for a few weeks, and then that turned into months. And I played the violin. For those of you who don't know me on a personal level, I play the violin, and we went to the doctors and we got a whole bunch of tests. And my mom is super good in medicine and herbal medicine and all that stuff, and so she's like researching and studying and whatever, but she was taking me to the doctors. So she was doing all the things she was supposed to as far as like taking me to the doctors, getting blood tests, stool samples, all those things. And the doctors called us when I was at the Kennedy Center. I was at the Kennedy Center and I was receiving an award for the violin, and I remember it so clear. They have this like big deck thing, and I was out there and we received a call from the doctor, and the doctor said, we know what it is, it's Campylobacter, it's a bacteria, and we're calling it an antibiotic right now. I was rejoicing. I was so excited, and that's where it all started and stemmed. And so fast forward to 20 years old, and I was still dealing with this. So 5 years later, off and on, every couple months. And every time that it would happen, we'd go back to the doctors and we would say, it has to be the Campylobacter laying dormant and coming back out. And so they'd give me another antibiotic, and that would suppress it. It would like go down some, and then a few months later it would build back up and I'd be sick again. And you're talking about throwing up, not being able to keep anything in, anything down. So then, just looking at these broken sticks, it reminds me how I felt broken in a sense of like hopelessness, that this would never end, but still hopeful at the same time. And I am a Christian, and I love Jesus with all of my heart, and I know that He is the ultimate healer, that He gives peace in the storm. And so what is cool about the Lord, sometimes He does not take the storm from you, but I can promise you that He walks you through the storm. He does not leave you. And so I always had that peace, and I always had that hope. But I was beginning to feel broken inside because I wondered what it meant for my future. So as we began to, hey Simba, to walk, walk through life and whatever, I remember getting really, really sick, and I went into the hospital because I couldn't stop throwing up. I was super dehydrated again. And I was in and out of the hospital a lot with this, and they would have to give me IVs and everything to recoup me. And so this was 5 years in, and I didn't know it, but the next day, it was November 15th of 2010, I was in the hospital again, not knowing that the next day I was supposed to be engaged to Nathaniel. And I came out of the hospital, and I got dressed, and we went to the Kennedy Center. Isn't that crazy? And so I figured out that sugar played a role in it. And my mom, she's a super healthy cook, and she did all the things right. I'm telling you, she did all the things right. And if we did have a cookie, it was 1, maybe 2. There was no sodas in our house. But how I kind of linked it to sugar is on holidays, we would go somewhere, and sometimes I would drink a soda. And every time that happened, I got sick. I remember one time Katie, my cousin, we are super close. We're sisters, really. And she brought me Panera Bread with a Dr. Pepper to surprise me at this preschool that I was working at. And we ate in the parking lot, and she does not live close. She lives in Annapolis, so she's just incredible. She's absolutely incredible. And so anyways, she did this, and I was sick. And so I linked it to soda. And so from 2011 until today, 2023, I have not drank soda. Ginger ale, Sprite, dark sodas, anything, none. And that helped a ton. It helped a ton. But yet again, after I had my first child, at 13 months old, we almost lost him because he stopped breathing. And I'm going to tell you something. He stopped breathing, and the paramedics just so happened to be passing our house. That was the Lord's protection. Okay, so he didn't take that storm from us, but boy, was he walking us through it. Then I got pregnant again later on with my second child, and he, because of the stress of both things going on, I ended up getting sick again. And this time, it was worse than ever. I couldn't even eat a grain of rice. There was just nothing. And so, because the Lord was walking us through it, this lady, Natasha, my friend, she contacted me, and she said, there is this holistic doctor that I want you to go see. And I'm thinking, I've tried everything. How is this natural medicine going to help me? And my mom, all through this whole time, has been praying and praying and praying and praying, seeking for guidance. And the Lord gave her such wisdom in so many ways to sustain me. And but He has a plan. Okay, and so He's not necessarily going to take the storm from you. He hadn't taken the storm from me, but He was walking me through it, and He was using the doctors I was meeting, the nurses I was meeting, the people that I'm able to connect to on a different level, because I have this testimony, this story. And so I'm like, okay, I'll try your holistic doctor. And so I went, and the doctor said, oh, you have an overabundance of bacteria in your stomach. And that made sense to me. And so she put me on this bacteria detox, and I was symptom-free for a year. Before that happened, you guys, I was down to 90 pounds. I'm not a very big person as is, but 90 pounds is way too small. And like I said, I couldn't even eat a grain of rice. I couldn't do anything. I was so fatigued. I had 2 little babies. I remember kneeling at the toilet because I would throw oftentimes 16 hours straight. 16 hours straight without a break. Do you get what I'm saying here? It was intense, okay? And this feeling And the sulfur burps, every time I would have the sulfur burp and I'd say, oh no, here it comes. And then here comes the busyness, and then here comes the nausea. And it was just so extreme. And so I wouldn't get relief sometimes until the 16-hour mark. And I remember kneeling up the toilet, learning to worship Jesus in the storm, learning to worship him no matter what is going on around me. And I've used this before, but just like Peter in the boat, and God says, come out, it is me, because they thought it was a ghost at first. They said, oh no, they thought it was a ghost. And Jesus said, no, it's me, come out, walk into the water, on the water. Jesus was walking on water, and Peter could have said, there's a storm going on, there's a storm around me. But what he did was he saw the face of God. He saw Jesus, and he stepped out into the water. And as long as his face was meeting the face of his Savior, everything was fine. There was still a storm going on. There were still scary things going on, but everything was well. And then the story goes on that he took his eyes off of Jesus and he looked at what was happening around him, and then he began to fall into the water. He began to drown. But super cool, there was a hand, and it was the hand of Jesus, and they reached and he pulled him out. There was still a storm going on, but Jesus never left him. So I want to encourage you that Jesus has not left you and your storm. And I remember being at that toilet seat, crying out to the Lord, worshiping him, praising him. You know, lots of times I have been guilty about praying and saying, God, I need. I want. Heal. Neglecting the fact that I haven't even worshipped the Creator. Thank the Creator that he even decided to make me. So that's what I learned to do. At that toilet seat, I learned to worship my Creator no matter what. And that has been one of the best life lessons that I could have ever learned. So fast forward, he sends this wonderful friend, this wonderful medicine, this bacteria detox, and I'm feeling better. A year goes by, and someone sent us a dozen of cupcakes. And Nathaniel's not a cake person, and my two little ones were little at the point at that time, and so I decided that I was going to eat one cupcake a day. And when I got to like the 7th day, I had a sulfur burp. And I thought, oh no. And there I found myself again, sick. And I'm like, Lord, you have to lead us. And my parents at this point, they were like, that's it. That's it. And so they love the Lord, they're praying people, and so they went into desperate prayers. My dad calls me one day and he goes, why don't you try baking soda? And I'm like, are you kidding me? These symptoms are so severe, you have no idea. Baking soda is not going to help me. And so I did it anyways because he's my daddy. And you know what? It calmed it. It took away all of my symptoms. And then my mom calls me one day and she goes, why don't you try apple cider vinegar to help prevent it? Because at this point, I was taking baking soda every day because the symptoms kept coming back. So my mom goes, I want you to try apple cider vinegar to prevent it so you don't even have to take baking soda, okay? Because, you know, you don't want to be on baking soda forever. So I said, okay. So I tried it and it prevented it. And this is what, because I'm 32 now. And so you're talking 15 to 30 years old. So 15 years I struggled with throwing up, with nausea. The apple cider vinegar, this is what we figured out, y'all. So the problem was there was overabundance of bacteria in my stomach. Absolutely, that's the problem. But why? What is the root? The root was my stomach acid. I didn't have enough stomach acid, which the apple cider vinegar upped my stomach acid. Well, if you don't have enough stomach acid, then the bacteria in your stomach gets more. There's nothing to balance it. And so with the apple cider vinegar, it would increase my stomach acid, which would take away, which would bring down the bacteria to a normal level. I still don't know why the baking soda helped other than the Lord. Before the baking soda, Nathaniel told me one night, he goes, hey, why don't you try Pepto? And I'm like, Pepto? Pepto's not gonna help me. Are you kidding me? Like, do you know what I'm experiencing here? I don't think this little pink medicine is gonna help me, but it did help me. It did help me, but you also don't wanna live on Pepto, right? And so not that it was healing me, okay, but it at least helped me manage and just survive. And so, but then I moved to the baking soda, and then I moved to the apple cider vinegar. And something so simple, that is why I got into natural medicine, because apple cider vinegar that you can make with yourself by growing apples and using the apple skins and the cores and some sugar, and you let it ferment, that. And so if something so simple could help something so severe, what else is out there that can help people that are going through something so severe? See, God has, okay, think about this, y'all. Think about this. Before Adam and Eve did their thing in the garden, right? They took of the fruit. They disobeyed God. They made that choice. Okay, before they did that, everything was perfect. There wasn't weeds and thistles and thorns. As soon as that happened, then one of the things that the Lord added were the weeds and the thistles and the thorns, okay? And what has medicinal value? The weeds. God is so good, and He is so gracious, and He is walking us through the storm of life. And we know that He is with us, and He knew that now there's going to be sickness in the world. And He said, you know what? Because there's sickness in the world, I am going to give medicine. Pretty cool. Pretty stinking cool. And so I want to encourage you guys that if you are going through a storm in your life, whether it's health or not, that the Lord is with you. If anybody needs anything or you want to talk, please contact us. Our email, Instagram, private Facebook is below. God bless.